All right, so this video absolutely random. However, if you've been like seeing my community posts and stuff, you'll notice that from time to time, I post and I'll be asking some questions. And before I even dive into this, I just want to say most of the time I find these pieces of content on like Facebook or like Instagram and I think they're good conversation starters, so I post them up. Now, are my opinions attached to them? Sometimes. But for this post specifically, if you know what I'm talking about, hold on, I gotta fix my chair, sorry. If you know what I'm talking about, then you've seen this post. So let's dive into it. If you haven't seen the post, first of all, do yourself a favor, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. I make content all the time. You already fuck with me. You watching me, you don't know me, and you fuck with me. I'm just kidding. But anyway, that was a little spastic, I'm sorry. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about this. So I put up a post earlier which says, is he wrong or is she? She canceled, so he replaced her with someone else. And now this is what her tweet says. Her tweet says, this comes from a woman named Big E on Twitter. Side note, don't go harassing these people. But she goes, this guy I was dating paid for us to go on a trip. Long story short, I canceled on him the last minute. Next day, this dude posted up a new chick. Listen, I had a lot of people say different shit about this post. There's a lot of people that sided with the dude. And to be completely honest, my personal opinion, I would side with the dude as well. Let me tell y'all a little story before I dive into the rest of this. So circa 2018, 2019, got out of a relationship. I had girls for friends, so while I was in the relationship, we'd always talk from time to time. Obviously nothing serious, right? When I got out of the relationship, I remember I met up with one of my female friends. Not gonna say her name, but I'm sure you're watching this video. Anyway, hi. So I met up with one of my female friends and she was like, oh, do you want to go to LA together? And I think that was around the first time I'd ever been to LA. I'd never been to LA before. I always wanted to go to California, always wanted to live in California. Not anymore now, but always wanted to live in California. Anyway, the opportunity to go to LA came up and I was down to go. So I told her, I was like, yeah, I'm with it. Like, what do we need to do? At that time, I wasn't traveling a lot. Thankfully, later these years, I have been traveling quite a bit. But now for LA, it was the usual. Had to get an Airbnb, had to obviously buy the plane tickets and whatnot. Now, me and her had already purchased the Airbnb like ahead of time because we figured out where we wanted to stay. We were staying in Santa Monica, or at least that was the plan. The plan was to stay in Santa Monica and we'd get the plane tickets after we secured the place. So the place was secured. Later that week, we were going to get the plane tickets. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and get my plane ticket now because I know plane tickets tend to fluctuate. And sometimes as the date gets closer to your travel date, it can be more expensive. Long story short, this girl canceled on me last minute. Side note, I still think you're a clown for that. I still think you're a clown. I understand, like obviously things came up, so you had to cancel. But yeah, I definitely still think you're a clown for that. Now, mind you, I went to Santa Monica by myself. I had absolutely no problems traveling alone. I love traveling alone. I do that now. I've been to Texas, Seattle, California again, Miami, been to a bunch of places on my own. I have no problem traveling. But you better believe if I had the extra plane ticket, I would have definitely called up one of the chicks I knew like, yo, do you want to come? Because guess what? You have been promoted. You are now one of my employees.
You have been promoted. You are now one of my elite employees.
I definitely would have done that if I had the extra ticket. But here's where all of this goes awry. So going back to the story before, I was saying where the guy essentially was foul for, replacing the woman, which in my personal opinion, if I was him, I would do that. Just like I said before, if I was him, I would definitely replace her. Ladies, y'all love to claim you could replace men in a minute, but when the guy's able to do that, everyone's up in arms. So much so, I had one particular viewer, which I'm gonna say his name, not his legal name, but I'm gonna say his name. My boy, shout out to you, side note. It's also an additional side note. I don't care if you have a different opinion. Feel free to, chime in, say what you want. It doesn't really bother me. So my boy said, Asian boy, 00001, that's literally his name. He says, from the context, he already had her on the side or back pocket. You don't blame him for having a side piece. You realize you're telling your followers you approve of having a side piece. Now, this is why context clues are important. Y'all motherfuckers need to pay attention. What does it say right here? Oh, you can't, never mind, you can't even see it. So, it says, dude moved on so fast you would have thought he was waiting for it. I don't blame him though. What do you think? This is the core of what I'm trying to say here. Listen, if you cancel on me last minute, I'm gonna hit somebody else up. Yeah, if you cancel on me, I still have the space available. You better believe I'm gonna hit someone up. That doesn't mean I had them on the side. But if I'm a guy who's able to travel, pay for your travel, that's assuming that he's also high value. You better believe he could pull up someone at the flip of a switch. Which, again, I don't know why people are up in arms about this. I'm not supporting people having side women. I don't think that's a good idea. Listen, if you're going to have fun, don't be in a serious relationship. Date and have your fun. You don't have to have a family and then have a side piece. You're just making more headache for you. All I'm saying is, if I can bag one, I could bag 100. If I could bag 100, I could bag 1,000. And if I'm high value, shit, I could probably bag 1,000,000. So you definitely need to come at me correct. If not, you're gonna get replaced. The ironic part is there are other people that agree with me. For example, we've got a bunch of comments in here. And I want to highlight the funniest ones, the most funny. That's not English. I wanted to highlight the funniest ones. So here's one. This one comes from Travis Scott LVD. Shout out to you. Thank you so much for contributing. So he goes, dude had an opening on the trip because she canceled. She wasn't his wife. He found a replacement woman that wanted to go on a trip. It's not difficult. He could have posted on Facebook and said, any girls want to go on a paid vacation, replacement found. Yes, it is literally that easy. It's that easy. Like, for whatever reason, people think it's hard to attract women. This isn't me trying to sell you a course. I'm not saying like, oh, I know the magic tricks. But like, yo, if you are a guy of some sort of substance and you're charismatic, you're charming, people like speaking to you, things of that nature, let's say you got all the qualities, right? And you have a vast network in your Facebook community. It's not hard to be like, hey, does anyone want to go on a trip with me? Anyone available for this trip? I had someone who wanted to come and they canceled. I don't know why people think for some reason this alludes to the man having a side piece. I think, and I'm not trying to assault you, Asian boy, not assault. I'm not trying to insult you, excuse me. But I think, and I could be wrong, I don't know if you'd even reply via video, but I think a lot of those times people think that is because they haven't had a lot of experience with relationships or just social dynamics in general. Because again, although I may not agree that men and women can be friends, that doesn't stop women from being friendly. So if that's the case, and again, this is a platonic friendliness, not like, you know, she's lusting after him, but one could make the assumption that if he is charming and he is attractive, the woman might think so as well. So with all that said, it's not hard to imagine that this gentleman would be able to go onto Facebook, put up a post, or, you know, hit up a couple girlfriends or whatever the case may be, but just be able to ask someone if they want to go, as opposed to having the assumption that he potentially had a side piece. I don't know. That's my opinion. This was a very ad hoc video. Side note, I definitely fuck with y'all. Thank you so much for stopping by and watching. Asian boy, this isn't like an attack on you or anything. I know people are very sensitive these days, but this is not an attack on you. I just wanted to highlight what you said because I think it's very pertinent to, you know, just community posts or just whatever. You know, when we talk about conversations and social dynamics and things of that nature, a lot of people like to project and put what they feel onto others, which isn't necessarily always the case, but this is why we have these conversations, because the goal is to elevate the conversation. So thank you so much for stopping by. Listen, do me a favor, fam. Whoop, turn my phone light on, sorry. Do me a favor, fam. I'm trying to hit 10K by the end of March, and I need your sub. So hit the sub button. Peace.